I felt a tight knot of anxiety twisting in my stomach as the evening drew closer. My wife had been preparing for this office party for weeks, pouring her energy into every detail. She'd spent years climbing the corporate ladder, sacrificing late nights and weekends, and I knew how much tonight mattered to her. It wasn't just a party. It was a chance to solidify her reputation, to prove herself among the higher-ups. As I stood in our bedroom, watching her adjust her earrings and smooth the fabric of her sleek black dress, I couldn't help but feel the weight of it all. She turned to me, her expression a mix of excitement and nervous energy, and ran through her mental checklist one more time. "Just remember to smile and talk to everyone," she said, her voice firm but encouraging, like a coach prepping a rookie for the big game. "You need to support me tonight. This is my moment." Her eyes sparkled with determination, and I nodded, forcing a small smile. But beneath it, a quiet unease stirred. I'd always been her cheerleader, the one in the background holding her up, but tonight felt different. It wasn't about us. It was about her, her image, her ascent. And I couldn't shake the growing suspicion that I was little more than a prop in her carefully staged performance. We arrived at the venue, a sleek downtown loft with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the city skyline. The room buzzed with a hum of conversation, clinking glasses and bursts of laughter. Everyone was impeccably dressed. Suits tailored to perfection, dresses that shimmered under the soft lighting. I tugged at the cuffs of my jacket, feeling out of place among these polished professionals. My wife, though, slipped into the crowd like she was born for it. She moved from group to group, her laughter bright and infectious, her charm effortless. I trailed behind, offering polite nods and small talk when prompted. But mostly I watched her shine. Then came the jokes. She had this habit, always had, of weaving me into her stories, turning me into the punchline. "Oh, you should have seen him try to fix the sink last week," she'd say, her voice loud enough to carry. "He ended up drenched in swearing at a wrench." The room would erupt in laughter, and I'd muster a weak chuckle, my face burning. It wasn't malicious, not really, just her way of keeping things light. But tonight, each jab landed harder, piling onto a resentment I hadn't fully acknowledged until now. I stood there, glass in hand, feeling smaller with every laugh, wondering how long I'd let this pattern define me. Later, I found myself in a quiet corner talking to her supervisor, a sharp-eyed man named Daniel with a reputation for spotting talent. He asked about her work, and I gave the answers I'd rehearsed, praising her dedication, her late nights, her brilliance. But as we talked, something shifted. Maybe it was the way he listened or the way he asked about my own interests, but I started to open up. I mentioned my old love for architecture, how I used to sketch buildings in my free time before life got in the way. His eyes lit up, and for the first time that night, I felt seen, not as her husband, but as me. That conversation cracked something open. Standing there, surrounded by the clatter of the party, I saw it all clearly. The years I'd spent shrinking myself to fit her narrative, letting her ambition eclipse mine. I'd buried my own dreams under the weight of her success, convincing myself it was my job to support her, no matter the cost. But the cost had been me, my confidence, my passions, my sense of self. I couldn't do it anymore. I found her near the bar, mid-story, her hands gesturing animatedly. I waited until she finished, then touched her arm. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low but steady. The words felt heavy, but I didn't waver. Her smile faltered as she followed me to a quieter spot near the windows. I took a deep breath and let it out. Everything I'd been holding in. "I've spent years being your punching bag, your sidekick," I told her. "You've used me to climb, and I've let you, but I can't keep losing myself to prop you up." Her eyes widened, and for once, she didn't have a quick comeback. She just stood there, absorbing it, as I turned and left the party alone. The next few days were a blur of emotion, anger, sadness, but also a strange relief. I started sketching again, pulling out old notebooks filled with half-finished designs. I'd always loved architecture. The clean lines, the way a building could tell a story without words. It had been my escape once, before I'd set it aside to play the supportive spouse. Now it felt like a lifeline. I spent hours at my desk, pencil in hand, losing myself in the rhythm of creation. Then came an unexpected twist. Daniel, my wife's supervisor, reached out. He'd remembered our conversation and wanted to see my work. I hesitated, but sent him a few sketches. Simple things, a modern library, a minimalist house. A week later, he called me into his office. "You've got talent," he said, spreading the drawings across his desk. "Ever thought about consulting? We could use someone like you on some upcoming projects." I was stunned. It wasn't just the offer, it was a validation, the chance to step into my own light. As I threw myself into this new work, I felt myself coming alive again. My confidence grew with every meeting, every draft I completed. But at home, the air was thick with tension. My wife noticed a change. How could she not? I wasn't the quiet, agreeable husband anymore. I had my own projects, my own momentum. She tried to engage, asking about my designs with forced brightness. But I could see the unease in her eyes. My independence unsettled her, and I realized she'd grown used to me orbiting her star. Things came to a head when she got the promotion she'd been chasing. A big step up, but it meant moving to a new city. She sat me down one night, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "I'm worried about your consulting," she said. "It's tied to Daniel, and that could complicate things for me." There was again her career taking precedence, my dreams expected to bend. I looked at her, feeling the distance between us widen, and shook my head. "This isn't about you anymore," I said quietly. "I need this." That conversation broke the dam. For the first time, she admitted her part in it all. "I didn't realize how much I was diminishing you," she said, her voice soft, almost fragile. "I got caught up in my own ambition, and I hurt you." It was an apology, not exactly, but it was an acknowledgement, a crack in the wall we'd built. We talked for hours that night, peeling back layers of resentment and unspoken truths. It was raw, painful, but necessary. A few weeks later, I had my first big presentation. I'd been working on a concept for a corporate campus. Open spaces, natural light, a blend of form and function. Standing in front of that room, sketches projected on the screen behind me, I felt a surge of pride. I wasn't just her husband anymore, the guy in the background. I was me, someone with ideas, with a voice. The applause when I finished was small but real, and it carried me home on a high I hadn't felt in years. When I walked through the door, she was waiting. We didn't say much at first, just sat together, the silence heavy with everything we'd been through. Finally, she spoke. "I'm proud of you," she said, and I could tell she meant it. But there was a sadness there too, a recognition that we weren't the same people anymore. Our paths had split, hers pulling her to a new city, mine rooting me in this new life I was building. We hugged, a long, bittersweet goodbye, and I knew it was the end of us as a couple. But it wasn't just an ending, it was a transformation. After she left, I stepped onto the balcony of my apartment. The city stretched out before me, lights flickering against the dark. I thought about the years I'd spent dimming myself, the slow unraveling that brought me here. Self-respect, personal growth. They weren't just words anymore. They were the foundation I was standing on. I'd lost a marriage, but I'd found myself, and that felt like freedom. As I leaned against the railing, the cool night air brushing my face, I saw the horizon not as a limit, but as a beginning. Sometimes I realized letting go is the only way to truly move forward.